I like to start interviews talking about the humidity. I figured it was a great jumping off point.
Uh-huh.
No, it blows my mind. Like the last time I went up to Toronto for the summer a couple of years ago, and I was like, where did this humidity come
Yeah.
from? It's rude
This
as all hell.
it's the lakes.
Whew.
It's the
Yeah.
lakes.
I mean, I live on like a bog of a river now.
Yeah.
But like the humidity is just, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
we used to
hard
play
to
a Warped
recover
Tour.
from a long day of it.
We used to play both Toronto and you guys are in Ohio now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the river that you're talking about is like we used to play this like shitty old like amusement park, like parking lot for on Warped Tour.
Oh,
And it was cool because they used to let you like use the pool, but the day used to be like draining. Like,
oh
cause it
my
always happened
God.
like we're like right in the middle of it too. Like
Yeah.
Warped Tour used to happen like right now, like in the months.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this took me back while I was like prepping for this interview. I put in
Yeah.
a lot of heavy lifting prepping for interviews, of
Yeah.
course. Um, I think I may have interviewed you when I was like 20.
Really?
I think
Where?
so. When you guys were doing Warp Tour. So I used to, the very first show I ever did was called Rippin' It and Lippin' It with
Okay.
Renee. Good name.
Yeah.
But I would interview bands, usually bands like you guys coming through Warp Tour and all of those things. But I mean, it was short lived. I did it when I was so young and I had not a clue what I was doing. Like I
Yeah.
probably, if I did interview you, I would have asked you like the dumbest questions. But
Yeah.
as I was like prepping and like going through your guys' stuff, I'm like, I think I did. I tried to like find a video of it and luckily I didn't find it because I probably would have had to cancel this otherwise. But yeah, we maybe
Wow,
go
that's
back farther
crazy.
than we know.
The only other time I like walked into a dinner that you were into and I said one word and you literally went, "Are you from North Tonawanda?" And I pulled out my ID and handed you my ID and my ID said North Tonawanda on it. And you were like, "No way, the city that's always burning." And that was like, yeah, it was,
Whoa.
you guys were eating sushi somewhere in like Orlando and a buddy of mine, like we like knew some of you guys and like took me there. And like, I all I said was one thing. It was really funny.
I know a good accent when I hear it, but in Toronto, we would always get those Buffalo commercials. Yeah. So we would get the, "Oh, you're in Tonawanda."
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was
so
always
rude.
burning. The worst part is you're not the first person that's ever said that to me. Like numerous people, like when they're from Toronto or like Hamilton or something like that, like just over the border, they'll always go, "Oh, North Tonawanda, that's a city that's always burning. Like there's always fires in that city." And you're like, I'm like, for me, I'm like, I guess I don't know. Like
What's
I don't
with
pay
that?
attention.
Why are there always fires?
I have no idea. Now I live like 20 minutes away, so I'm not in North Tonawanda anymore. But
Are
yeah,
you like the king of Buffalo? Like it's pretty crazy that you guys have like ads. Like I feel like
yeah,
I see people take the photos of you guys like around Buffalo. That's got to be like, I mean, I know you've done a million things obviously, but still that's
yeah,
like pretty cool to be able to like that hometown pride is
yeah.
awesome.
The band did like a charity, like a big charity thing at the end of the year for like 20 years straight. So like in like at the last year, I mean, we probably generated like tons of money for the city of Buffalo. Like, so it's always been something that like, even to this day, like once we announced that like AEW is going to be there in September, like I just started like going, like trying to think of like ways I can do things in Buffalo. And like,
Yeah.
like I'm
Ah.
contenting like coffee shops and, you know, I want to like DJ a set. I want to like do as much as I possibly can leading up to that show.
All right, I got a couple follow-up questions.
Okay.
One's more of a statement. I'm very excited that that's happening in September because that means that I can come on this trip and parlay it into a trip to Toronto.
Yes.
So ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
That's where my mind just went. Secondly, what kind of DJ sets do you do when you're DJing? What's like that vibe?
I have like a weird concept that I kind of want to try. Like I have a few like now that the band's done, like I'm not currently working on like music. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like my brain's still there and it wants to work. And I have this like cool thing that I want to do with wrestlers and my band friends
Okay.
and kind of do like shows like where it's like a band guy versus a wrestler guy and they just do DJ sets and I'll MC the thing and like do a really cool thing. And I kind of want the first one to be in Buffalo and I'll do one of my band dudes that I went, you know, that I was in the
Oh,
band
that's
with.
fun. Who would you like comprise the teams of? Like who would you bring from the wrestling side to step up to do that?
I mean, obviously like people who are fun, like, like,
Yeah.
you know what I
You
mean?
don't, no
Like,
duds allowed. If you're a dud,
no.
kick
And
rocks.
you know how it is. Like there's some wrestlers that just don't have the personality to put them on a microphone, and like, but there's
Yeah,
also band dudes like that. So like
sure.
you don't want to like go putting a guitar player up there who can't talk. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, a dream would be like Orange versus like, because Orange is like, music taste is like all over the place. There's
Okay.
times where I'll see him like vibing about lines stuff I like pop music that like I don't know about. And he'll
Hmm.
just be in his own head, like listening to it. And like, I'll always ask him, I'm like, dude, what's going on? Like, tell me about that. I want to hear it, you know?
Hmm.
And then he'll tell me about what he's feeling when he's like listening to a song. And I don't know, as a musician and as like I guess like a student, like I love hearing that stuff. So like I would probably do like Orange versus like a metal dude, and
Okay.
see how weird the room is. And like when I used to do this DJ set, and it only happened when we were in Europe. I would get asked to do DJ sets, and I'm like, man, my taste in music is so far, like it's so all over the place that like I will bum an entire crowd out. So like I have to like
I'm
I
like
have to
that with
scale it back,
karaoke. I was like, who wants like some dramatic shit?
right? Yeah, like it's
Who
just
wants to
not the
hear
time.
Radiohead by me?
Yes, yes, but that's what I mean. Like, and I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to help with Violent Gentlemen. Had me like go out and MC or like DJ a couple sets for like the NHL. We're like,
Shout out to Violent Gentlemen, by the way. Great, great people
always
over there.
the greatest people.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had me do these things, and then I like would take that into account. And I was like, dude, no one wants to hear Metallica right now. Like, there's no one in this room that wants to like hear like an 8-minute song about like World War II. Like, no one wants to hear it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So like I started like I really took it into account, and I would make these like crazy things, and I would cut out intros, and like I put too much time and work effort into it. So then when I went to Europe and I started getting offers to do DJ sets in Europe, I did this thing called DJ First Four, where I would just play the first 4 Metallica records, take my shirt off, and play air guitar on a table. And that
Oh my
literally is it.
God. That
And
sounds European as people would be like,
oh,
yes, like so into that. That's
I've
great.
seen everything during those sets too. You see people like fighting, making out, like it's amazing. And like I tried to do it a couple times in the States, and like I have to be in like a bigger city. You know what I mean? Like if
Right.
I did it in like Chicago or I did it in LA, like, oh, people would be into it. But like you go to like Lawrence, Kansas, and you try to do like a Metallica
No.
night, it's not
It's,
working.
and like Metallica is like, you know, as mainstream as that genre could be to even like
100.
gravitate those people in. But I love that you do that. That sounds super fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully we can like get a sitter for the baby when we're in Buffalo so I can
Yeah.
attend and
We'll have a lot of fun.
witness this.
I want to do like guest barista. Like I'm really into
Oh, that's
coffee.
awesome.
So I want to do like a guest barista thing that I'm going to put myself to work that week.
Great. Do you know how to do like the foam like faces and stuff?
I have no idea.
Okay, but you can YouTube it. You can YouTube everything. Anything I don't know how to do, there's a YouTube
Oh,
tutorial. Like I had to make a cake for my daughter's birthday, and I was like, I don't like to hack shit. When I'm doing it, I want to do it, and I want it to be awesome. So I like made this smash cake that she's like ripped apart, but it was like this ombre icing. I've never really iced a cake before in my life, but
yeah.
YouTube shows you what's up. So I think that you could really, you know, get a good AEW logo done. Maybe you can
Oh,
do
yeah.
Tony Khan's face in some foam. Who knows?
Oh boy.
You should do
I
his
don't know
dad
if
with the
I'll,
mustache. That would
oh, that
be
would be cool.
good. I mean,
Like
as a
being,
mustachioed man.
yeah, as a mustache, I guess like an aficionado. Yeah. Just put a big mustache in there. Yeah.
um,
YouTube is this like, are you guys like, have you guys like actually owned a house before? Or did you have like, you guys live together where like someone takes care of everything and you guys just have to live there?
okay. So
If that makes sense.
you mean like John and I together owning a house?
Yeah.
Yes. So our
Okay.
house in Vegas was like the first house that we had together. And now the house here in Cincinnati. But yeah, it's definitely like a melding of both. But I'd say it's a melding of both of our shit together. But a lot of the times he's so passive about it that I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna steamroll and put in the shit that I want. And I feel
Yeah.
bad about that. But he's just very like, oh, whatever, do whatever you want.
Yeah. This is the first house I've ever owned. And if YouTube did not exist, this house would be in rubbles. Like it would, it
Yeah.
would be terrible. Like, and like, that's YouTube has saved my life on that and cooking and
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, especially
So,
when you
yeah.
have a baby. When you have a baby, YouTube's
Oh.
also very, very helpful. I actually have to
Really?
go down a YouTube video later because our house is like, so there's like, you know, just like this inch thick of like drywall or plaster or whatever, but behind that it's all brick. So anytime I want to
Yeah.
hang something, it's like this whole
Oh.
to do. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I literally hire a handyman that I'm like, can you come hang this picture for me? He's like, I have way more important things to do than come do one thing at your house. So
Yeah.
I need to figure some of this shit out.
Yeah, that's
I would
what
like
I
to
did.
circle things back here really quickly because you were
Okay.
talking about different bands and different things that you like to do. And I was watching an interview that you did with Lexi Nair, and you were talking about Scandinavian music that you
Yeah.
listen to. Is this a
Yeah.
thing? So,
Yeah.
and the only thing I know about this really is like Turbo Negro.
Well, that's like one of my favorite bands of all time. So that's,
Okay.
it's completely different than the other stuff. Like I'm into like this, I'm into black metal. I'm like
Mhm.
really into black metal, and it black metal is like this weird thing where like there's really bad people that do really bad things. And then there's like people who do really bad things, but like have a really nice, okay, I'll just tell you like this. A lot of dudes, and this isn't for me, I don't listen to the bands that do this stuff. There's bands that do like really right-wing stuff, like extreme right-wing stuff.
Okay.
And that I don't even get into it. I don't even get into it.
We're not subscribing.
But there's a dude named Gall that sings for this band called Gorgoroth, and he's against everything they're against. So he's like gay, he's married to a man, but he's like this big stoic dude that like happened to burn down a church.
Oh my.
Like he's a wild dude, but
yeah,
like that's the true form of like punk rock. So like when I got into like punk rock, it was obviously like like destroying the establishment, right? So like you're just doing this constantly to everything, and that's the reason why I have hand tattoos, and that's the reason why I'm covered in tattoos. And I think anyone else that probably is covered in tattoos will probably tell you the same thing. Like, so when I got into black metal, it was like, whoa, these dudes are like way more punk. Like they don't care about anybody. They don't care about anything. Like this is like the most like weirdly nihilistic thing. And when I found out about Gall, it was like, oh man, this dude's cool as hell because he truly doesn't care. Like he's like, he's his own man. He like lives on an island. And like, it's funny because I have a buddy over there who's in like this rock band called Audrey Horn. And he's a great tattooer. And I loved his artwork. I saw his artwork. Like he drew a thing on the back, like room of this like venue in like Finland or something like that. And it was like, it was literally like a shitty dude with his shirt up, like burping. And it said something in Norwegian. And then like, it was just this crazy picture of like two drunk dudes. Like, and I loved it. And I like posted it on my Instagram. And then Toshi actually like hit me up and was like, hey man, like I love your band, blah, blah, blah. And we started like talking, and then I didn't know, but he was in a band with a guy that used to be in a band with Gall. So he had like all these crazy stories. Yeah.
Oh,
so, like,
I love a good firsthand account like that.
Yeah.
I got to go see Turbo Negro in Vancouver years and years and years ago. And it was like one of like, it was the Commodore Ballroom, I think it was. It's like the like floor kind of bounces. It's a cool venue. But I remember when I see Turbo Negro there. And what is the lead singer of Turbo Negro's name again?
Oh, it was he just passed away. It
oh,
was
really?
Yeah.
Hank. Yeah. I mean, hell of a showman, that guy.
Incredible. So the funny, I think was it around like 2008?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
No, it would have been before that. It would have been
that.
No, maybe it was around then. It could have been around 2008. Yeah, maybe it was.
Because we played Seattle, and we played at the Showbox. We played the new Showbox with Under Oath. And while I was playing, our tour manager came up and was like, as soon as you're done, take your guitar off and just run to the other Showbox because Turbo Negro's playing.
Oh my God.
And so like I remember taking my guitar off, throwing it at him, and just bolting down the street and seeing Turbo Negro in Seattle. So I wonder if they went to Vancouver like the night after. We might have seen them like literally like that day.
Yeah. Oh,
It
that's
was
so
wild.
cool. Yeah, it could have been around that. As I was like doing the math, I was like, wait, how old was I when I saw them? Yeah, that actually might add up. They could have been
Yeah.
around that. I'm sure. I don't know how often they come through and tour in Canada, but I'm glad I got
Yeah.
to see it. Glad I
That's
got to
awesome.
see that.
Oh, they're the best.
Okay, growing up in Buffalo. What was
Yeah.
growing up in Buffalo like for you? I mean, as much as it's just across Lake Ontario for me from Toronto, they're similar, but I'm sure there's tons of differences as well. What was life like for you as a kid in Buffalo?
I think Buffalo, I've said this before, and I think Buffalo is, it's like that place. It's like we're all winners, but like the perception of us on the outside is that we're losers, because it's like we're always getting dumped on by snow. Our
Mm-hmm.
teams can't win, like our sports teams can't win. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just like you never hear anyone go like, "Yeah, Buffalo's awesome,"
Yeah.
except for the people that live in Buffalo. And now it's become like it's so much different like than growing up. When I grew up, like, so my fiance is from LA, and when she moved to Buffalo, she would be like, "Oh my God, why don't you ever take me to this place?" And I'd be like, "Yo, that literally used to be where people just got killed. Like you would go
Yeah.
there and like there would just be violence, and like now it just got turned over, and like in my head it's still like, oh man, stay away from that place.
It's
You know what I
literally
mean?
the exact same thing for John and I here, because when he grew up here, Cincinnati was gnarly and we're like
Yeah.
pretty close to downtown. And yeah, for him, he's like, first of all, I never thought we'd move back to Cincinnati, never thought we'd move to this neighborhood. And yeah, same thing for like your fiance. I'm like, it's so cute here. Look at all these
Yeah.
great little spots. And he's like, it did not used to be like this.
Yeah, and then we come up with that all the time. She's like, "Oh my God, this new restaurant opened up over here," and I'm like, I've literally watched a guy get stabbed there. Like I
Oh
can't.
my
It's not
God.
like and it wasn't like I'm like painting this like insane picture about Buffalo. I'll give you like when you're here, it's definitely not like Toronto. Where Toronto, you just have this like metroplex, this
Yeah.
giant metropolis city. Like Buffalo, everything's pretty condensed in that one little area that is Buffalo. And then like you either live in the suburbs, which we all did. Like I lived in North Tonawanda, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you
And
did.
like, yeah. So like for me, it was like it's blue collar. There's not like a lot of white collar jobs here, or there wasn't when I was a kid. So like you're when I was a kid, it was just kind of like, oh man, like really, I got to work in a factory when I get older. And my dad worked in a factory, my uncles worked in a factory. Like it was just, I thought I was going to work in a factory, and I did. I was like an engineer assistant or something like
Oh,
that for
wow.
like 2 years, where I worked in a factory, and like I literally thought that was my life. And I remember being like, oh my God, I gotta play more guitar, I gotta get out of here. So it was just
Yeah.
that, but I never
So that
moved. I
must have
loved
been
it.
really crazy though, to like when you grow up somewhere like that where it's kind of hard to see beyond those things, especially like your family does it, everyone around you is doing that, they're all working, in those same factories doing all those things, and for you to be like, oh, you know what, I'm actually pretty good at guitar, I'm gonna ride this out. You join the
Yeah.
band, everything takes off, you become a professional wrestler, that all takes off.
Yeah.
Like pretty crazy for you to like be plucked from that. Not plucked from that, I mean, obviously you worked super hard for that.
Yeah.
But did your family understand what you were trying to do?
100%. I mean, that was like, my family is probably like they were the most supportive. And I think they like realized like I have bad learning disabilities. So like school just wasn't for me. Like
Oh, like
dyslexia,
what? Oh,
dyslexia
dyslexia.
was like
Fucking
really bad.
dyslexia, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's weird now. There's like some new, if anyone's listening to this and wants to check some stuff out, there was like a bunch of like misdiagnosis of dyslexia, and there's this other thing, I have no idea, it's called like something like effect or something. Basically what happens is some people can't see like white and black. It for me, like when I look at like a book, I have to read one page like 4 times,
Okay.
because it's just white and black for some reason does it. If I put like rose colored glasses on, like exactly like the
Yeah.
term rose colored
Yeah.
glasses, I only have to read it one time. So
Really?
like, yeah, it's a weird thing where some
Brains
people's
are
eyes,
crazy, huh?
it's
It's
man, I'm learning more and more every day about my
yeah.
brain. Like I never paid attention to communication. I never paid attention to, I was in a van touring at 17 and toured until I was 43 years old. So like,
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy. How was it
Yeah.
for you coming down from that, from being on the road for that long, parlaying everything into professional wrestling? And obviously we'll delve into that, but to
Yeah.
have Every Time I Die come to an end. How has that been for you?
I'm still having problems. Like I'm still
Yeah.
having problems with it. It's, my life was like, it's the best way to say it is like, like it's alphabet soup, right? It's not like full sentence. You have to like look for like things, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? So like my life was really just like a bunch of things just thrown at the wall. And then you kind of stop that. And then you have to like realize that like I have, I have bad problems like with like scheduling, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just stuff like that. And it's, that's the type of things that like you're when you're thrown in a van at 17, like no one's really teaching you like life stuff. They're just kind
Mhm.
of like, you just stay in a van. And then
Yeah.
like when problems occur, you just get back in the van,
Yeah.
and now it's kind of like you kind of have to like grow up really fast, and you realize like, oh man, I thought I was grown up, and then all these things just kind of hit you, and you're like, oh man, that's okay, this is life. This is how life is without a van and a trailer.
Yeah, it's like I always think about like the identity crisis that kind of comes from something like that, from doing something for so long and then that coming to a stop, and then all of a sudden it's like this reevaluation of like, who am I? What am I doing? What's happening again? It's a
Yeah,
weird way to just kind of like bob back up to the surface and take a look around and like really reevaluate what you're doing and what you want to spend your time doing after you've been doing
100%.
it for so long. Like it can be such a mind.
Well, the biggest thing is like, it's not normal. Like our parents never got to walk out and have 20,000 people scream at them,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? And like to kind of like crush the ego on that is like, it's hard, and
Hmm.
it makes you sound like such just a wimp when you're trying to communicate it. And like that's something I struggle with a lot, where I'm just like, dude, just suck it up, man. You're a wimp. Like stop. Like you literally had people cater to you in a band for like years, and now it's like I had a tour manager and I had a manager and I had, you know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like just stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
No, I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean with that, but I know what you mean where it's like if people don't understand that, it's like, oh, okay, you lived a charmed life for a while and now you're like,
Yeah.
back to doing whatever. I mean, you're still doing amazing other
Yeah.
things, but it is such an adjustment when you've been doing one thing for so long. Like it's funny, I joke about that all the time from not being at WWE. We used to get all of our
Yeah.
information on this app of like, you've got to be at this
Yeah.
appearance, you've got this thing coming up. And I'm like, what the am I doing? Like, I'm
Yeah.
so bad at scheduling my own stuff. Like, I always joke that I'm like the worst boss I've ever had because
Yeah.
I'm like booking shit left, right, and center. Did I put it in my phone? Have I sent out the Zoom link? What's going on?
Hmm.
Yeah, having somebody just kind of like corral those things for you can
Oh, it's
be,
insane. Like
yeah.
when did you get into entertainment? Like when did you start doing entertainment?
Probably like around 18, I guess,
Yeah.
is when I like first really started doing like as soon as I finished high school is right when I started doing it. Like I finished high school, didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to perform in some capacity. And I was like, Second City's in Toronto, that's what I'm gonna go do. And that was like the
Yeah.
first thing. I was like, take my $250
Yeah.
and show me what to do. But yeah, I mean, when you start doing something like that from a young age and it's all you like really know is
Hmm.
that world that, yeah, doing like, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
completely different work ethic
it
too.
is. Oh,
And
totally.
like
It's such a grind.
I'm not a numbers guy. So like that was one of my big things when I was in school. One of my biggest learning disabilities was just not, I can't remember numbers to save my life.
Hmm.
You can put them there. I have to read it 100 times for me to even get it, And once I kind of realized that that's really what real life is like, or like you have to go work in a place where like you have to pay attention to all this stuff. And my brain just doesn't work that
Yeah.
way. So like
Yeah.
once I could funnel it into music and kind of like get that ball rolling. And then once I realized like, oh man, I kind of know what a tune is. I can
Yeah.
kind of like put this together. And then once I found like-minded dudes, then it got really easy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Did you find like other like coping mechanisms to kind of help with those things? I think things that you did struggle to learn, you could find little ways around it that helped you figure it out.
100%. Like I have to describe, I have to like explain stuff to my fiance sometimes when it like the way my brain works. And especially with like music, like don't know how to read music. So like I just picked up a guitar and it just made sense. So like
Yeah.
to me, it was more like Tetris than it was anything. I would just make these shapes up in my head and then I would just play these shapes. So like if I wrote out music to you, it would only make sense to me and the
Okay.
dudes I was in the band with. And I'd
They
have to
learned
like,
your language.
they had to. So like a
Yeah.
lot of it is like X's and O's, or I'll use like squares for certain things and triangles for certain things, or I'll describe like a feeling or something like that. So
Yeah.
like if I'm gonna write something that's kind of sad, I'm gonna use like a delay pedal on it, or like there's like weird, or I'm gonna do like high notes. And like it really turned into like more of like a video game to me than it did like
That's
making
fascinating.
music. Yeah. So like
That's
a lot of
cool.
things, wrestling to me is like it's like writing a song. So like once I kind of like understood how to write that song, it was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Like there's an intro, there's an outro, there's a chorus, there's,
Sure.
and it really does work like that. You know what I mean? Like it,
Hmm.
you need bridges and you need like stuff like that. So like wrestling still to this day is still kind of shapes and like weird colors and stuff like that. Like I'll see colors for certain things, which is like really
Crazy.
weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that that's like a transferable skill of like what you were doing at music to be able to apply that to wrestling. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so your love of wrestling, you're touring with this band, like you said, we're on the road from 17 to 43. Finding your passion for professional wrestling to the point of wanting to actually work at it, get signed to AEW and like have this other career. How the
Yeah.
hell did you do that? That's crazy.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with wrestling, and it just never seemed realistic because there was nothing near Buffalo. Like there wasn't, and there was like a couple guys. Like I did some training with a dude in Buffalo like when I was like 17. I went over the border and did some training over there like
Hmm.
that. I blew my ACL out when I was
Oh
like
shit.
18. And that it literally was the catalyst that got a guitar in my hand more and got me to play like seriously. Like, and I think I can talk once people like get me to talk, but I'm pretty shy. Like I'm pretty like closed, like inward, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I think that was like my coping mechanism to like blowing my ACL out. I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna pick up this guitar. And then I started a band and I kind of like, I don't know, like I kind of got the ball rolling like with that just to see
Hmm.
how it was. And then once I kind of like caught the fever, I just kind of like
Yeah.
it just kept going, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
every time I died was like really easy. Like it was it came together like that. And
It's crazy how things just work like that sometimes, like the way that they're supposed to. Like when things are, I always kind of go back and forth sometimes, like even just in like my own career, if I feel like something like comes together really easily, it's like, okay, cool, that's the thing I'm supposed to be doing. But then
yeah,
sometimes you do hit those hurdles where it's like, no, just like put your head down and grind and still get this other shit done, even though it's not
yeah.
coming to you as easily. It can be like such a catch 22, I find. If I'm like pushing against the grain too much, I'm like, all right, maybe I should stop doing this or like reevaluate what I'm doing. But it's hard to decipher those things sometimes.
And I think that like what you say though, I think that that's like a major thing when people ask you like for advice. I think that that's the thing that I always tell them is like persistence is really the biggest thing, where like
Yeah.
you're going to hit a hurdle, and if you realize that hurdle's too tough, it just isn't for you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And
Yep.
that I've had numerous conversations with people on tour where like they'll tour the band and there's a guy complaining, and I just pull him aside and I go, dude, maybe touring isn't for you. Like
Yeah.
it isn't for you. Like if you're missing everything, every single second, that just, it's not for you, man. And that's okay.
Hmm.
Like it's okay. It's like failure is literally like the best thing for success, because
Yes.
it literally tells you where you're at.
And
And
not
if you,
everything is for everyone. Just because this one thing doesn't work out for you doesn't mean like you find your
yeah,
other lane and you gravitate towards that thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's, and
I
that,
always feel that way about like different successes on things too. It's like just like first of all, this line of work especially is not for everybody, and that's how people get weeded out along the way. Is if you can hack it during some of
yeah.
those really tough times. I mean, grinding it out on the road. People, I'm sure, think that being on the road like that's super glamorous and fun, and
Oh.
everyone's partying all the time, but it's definitely not always that.
I always kind of try to knock people down when they say that. It's like, oh yeah, being a band is great. Like sitting in a 15 passenger van for 8 hours, barely making it to a show, having to load equipment through a crowd of
Mm-hmm.
1,000 people. Like that's awesome. Like that's literally what I wanted when I want to start a band. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
people are like,
Yeah.
oh, really? You got to do that? Like, yeah, yeah. And then you think that I'm going to hang out after the show? No, I got to get back in the van and drive 8 hours through the night
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
somewhere else.
What are some of your touring hacks? How did you survive being on the road for so long?
This is a huge, for me, this is my, if I had a mantra, this is my mantra. And this, I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but you'll never stop thinking about it after I say it.
Mm.
So us as human beings, we put ourselves in boxes, and we start with the most dumb thing. It's just like, I'm a punk. Okay. I'm in a box. All right. I live in a house that is a box. Every room is a box. Every single thing that we do, we're looking into a box right now. We're later on, we're going to turn a box on and we're going to watch a box.
Oh my God.
When you walk outside and you go onto a sidewalk, you're literally walking in little boxes. So like taking yourself out of the box, literally only for 15 minutes a day, is like one of the most important things. So every single day I try to get out into nature. I try to like touch grass. I try to touch trees to get myself out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And that literally is like, that's been my thing since I've been probably like 20 years old. Once I realized that like I kind of get sensory overload from this stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
I need to go, you know what I mean? And like get away. And a lot of times it's tough because you're stuck in a city and there's no way to like get out of that. But like, I think it was like 5 or 6 shows ago, like I went out and I was just doing grounding. I don't know. I think we were in like Kansas City or something. And there was a really nice hill next to the hotel. And like when the bus got up in the morning, I was like laying on the hill, just kind of like feeling grass and stuff. And the bus like
Mm-hmm.
left. And when I got to work, everyone was like, dude, what were you doing? It's just like, I don't know, man. I like to feel nature. I like to feel grass, and
Yeah.
I like to like get away from this, you know, like being in a
Mm-hmm.
box. And really that like, to go back to that answer of like, since the band's been done, it's been taking myself out of boxes. And you
Yeah.
realize that like, if you've done something for 25 years, you just keep putting yourself in a box. Like, I'm a guitar player. I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. And once you can kind of realize, you can just go, hey, you know what? Like, I love my fiance. I love my house. I love my life outside of that. That's my box. And
Mm-hmm.
once you can protect that box, then it's like super easy. You don't have to have other boxes, you know?
Gosh,
Yeah.
how like cubic.
Yeah.
That's really smart. That is really smart. I find I think about stuff like that often too, especially having a daughter that like I need to get her outside. She needs to see
Yeah.
all these things. She needs to see the birds and the flowers and all those things. And it's so easy as like adults to be like, oh, I got to be on my phone. I've sent this email. I've got to respond to this person. I've got to do this thing. And literally, if I do that, she just looks at me and goes, ah, like
Yeah.
screams in my face. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I have to like, yes, I have to juggle my work and my real life and like all of those things. But yeah, just being able to get outside and be in nature and just like break
Oh,
up that pattern of just like staring at your phone, the TV, whatever the
yeah.
oof, it can be some heavy lifting sometimes though,
Yeah.
because it's such the
Yeah.
norm to do.
It really is. Like
Yeah.
I love I love watching movies. I love sitting in front of the TV. You know what I mean? I love
Oh
my
yeah.
couch. I
Yeah.
love my house. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you do that all the time, you're going to turn into like a robot. And
Yes.
that like, in that, I think that's a lot of times you meet people, especially in entertainment, where you're just like, man, like I just met that dude. What? Oh, like totally different than what I thought. And like
Yeah.
now I feel gross. Like,
Yeah.
and it happens a lot. It happens a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it does, unfortunately. Okay, pro wrestling. You're signed to AEW. How did you go from being on a band, touring as often as you guys were, doing all the things that you were doing, to also parlaying things into this whole other career? Like, how the hell did you manage to find the time to do that?
I think it was almost kind of like out of necessity. Things in the band were kind of starting to get ugly. I would say probably about 12 years ago.
Oh shit.
And it was just
you guys
like
were holding on.
off and on. Not like holding on, like it just kind of like, if it went kaputs 12 years ago, it would have been the same if it went kaputs like it did in December.
Yeah.
There was someone in the band literally was just creating something that made me go, I need to do something else. And it presented itself. A school literally opened up in Buffalo. Jesse, my partner Blade, he started like going there just to get some training in. And I was like, well, it, I'll just go and just bump around, like I don't have any aspirations. I really don't have the time to like do this competitively or, as a profession, but like, I'll go there and like get a workout in and whatever, and then the more I went, the more I did it. People just kept saying like, dude, you should do this. And I started getting like offers. Like once it kind of like got out there, like people were offering like shows or spots at least, you know what I mean? And then it just kind of got to a point where like, then I was like doing shows, but I was like, I would dress exactly like I was on stage. I would come out exactly the same way. So if an ETID fan wanted to come see me wrestle, I'd be like, holy shit, I just saw that dude play guitar and now he's exactly here. But when you do that, you kind of pigeonhole yourself, and then you kind of get the same offer over and over again, which is like, hey, come to our promotion. Like our top heel is going to be in the ring. He's going to have a fake guitar with him. And he's going to strum it. He's going to make fun of you and you're going to choke slam him. And like, that's it. So like, that's
like Elias's gimmick.
Yes.
It was for a while.
Yeah. And it kind of stinks. You know what I mean? Like you got to get pigeonholed in there. And I was like that. And Jesse literally went, hey man, if you want to get treated like a wrestler, look like a pro wrestler, like go buy boots, get trunks and see if it's for you. And I was like, okay. And I went and I did it. And then I was like, oh man, this is really cool. And like,
and you can probably move a lot better, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. But it, once I kind of got the ball rolling on that, like the creativeness of pro wrestling is the same exact creative thing I use for music. And like, at first I wasn't getting it. Like I wasn't making sense of that part of it. And then once I realized like, oh man, there's like way more showmanship than there is. Like showmanship is like the most important thing I think in wrestling. Because if you can't just get in the ring and like make the crowd react to anything, like that's kind of hard. Like you can go out there and do a bunch of movements, but like if you don't have the entertainment part, and I was like, oh man, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been like entertaining people for a long time.
Yeah.
But it just never clicked. And then once it did, it was like, oh, okay, like, man, maybe I could do this. And then like offers kept coming for like actual wrestling instead of just that spot. And then Jesse was just kind of vocalizing the fact that he wanted to like do more. And we were just working in Toronto, and he was like working in a tag team. And then like, I was just in like multi-mans like all the time. There was never any weight on me. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, I don't know what to do with them. We'll put him in an 8-man. And then once me and Jesse started like tagging, then my brain just started kind of like going, oh shit. Like, oh, if I look at us like outlaws and then kind of like come up with something that makes us kind of look like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that's where the name came from. Where it was like the Butcher and the Blade. It wasn't like, it has nothing to do really with like us being like butchers, but I like the idea of like normal guys going out and like kicking some ass, out of, that's just what they do.
Well, that takes away one of my questions, because I was going to ask you what kind of butcher skills you had.
To believe it or not, though, I went to like 8 months of culinary school. So
shut up.
Yeah, I do have some sort of chops, but like
really?
Not that. Yeah. And my grandfather was a butcher.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, tell me about culinary school now. Wrestling's talking my language, but culinary school, we're really cooking now. Cooking with grease, baby.
it was literally, I ran track in college and I needed to figure out something to do that would keep my brain there. And I was like, oh, I like cooking, so I'll just go do that. The worst part is that 8 months was like, I probably picked up a spatula or a knife like 5 times.
Oh yeah.
Because you have to do like hotel management or something like that. So like that 8 months was whatever. But I cook every day. I love cooking. So like,
have you watched The Bear on Hulu?
I haven't yet. I haven't.
Watch
Maddie's
it.
like one of my like oldest friends. Maddie used to let every time I'd stay at his house when I was
What?
like, yeah, when I was like,
Stop.
when the band first started. So he lived in St. Catharines.
Uh-huh.
And he had a roommate and they were going to college at the time. So like the band would go over and like you could play in a weekend, you could do like Burlington, Hamilton, Toronto, and like none of the same people would go to any of those shows. So like there'd be like 150 people in Burlington, 100 people in Hamilton, and then like 200 people in Toronto, and totally different. But you didn't want to cross the border every single time. So we would stay at Maddie's in St. Catharines and then drive to the shows, and he would just come to the shows with us.
What kind of cooking would you do with Maddie? We're talking about Matty Matheson, everybody.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Here's the thing. He, at this point in time, he had just started. He was a shitty, he looked like a garbage pail kid. He was like this little chubby guy, like, and once the band kind of started rolling, like we didn't have to like, we honestly couldn't stay at people's houses anymore because we had more people with us. So like every once in a while we would stay with them, but like, it's kind of like wrestling where like you kind of see someone and then you don't know when you're going to see them next. You know what I mean? So years later, it's probably like 2012, I'm filling in for this band and I get a text message from a guy that says, hey, you should come play Underparts and Laborers.
Oh, okay.
So I asked the band, I was like, hey, do you want to go to Toronto after the Buffalo show and play this show? And then we can drive to Boston, which is insane, by the way. I don't know if you can do the geography on that one, but
it's rough.
The show let out at like 1 a.m. and we had to drive all the way to Boston, like through the night. In a snowstorm.
What is that, like 10 hours? 12 hours?
Yeah, it was terrible. It was about 12 hours. Yeah. And you had to deal with like border stuff again.
Whoa.
So we were at that place and I hadn't seen Maddie in like years. I probably hadn't seen Maddie at that point in time for 6-7 years. And I'm sitting there and someone came up and was like, hey, if you want to order food, this place, each of us get like a $20 like per diem or something like that with this place. So I go upstairs and I'm sitting there looking at the menu and I see Maddie like bolt by. And I was like, holy shit, that was Maddie. I go, Maddie. And he comes over and he's like, just insane. And he was like super stoked that like the band was playing there. He had no idea that I was like filling in for the band, but he like loved the band. And he's like telling me, and I started asking him like, dude, this restaurant's amazing. Like,
yeah.
I wonder who owns it. Like, do you like, is this like, and he goes, dude, I own it. And I was like, what? And I instantly just started like tearing up. Like I got like friend pride. I was like, no way. Like last time I saw you, you were like a struggling like college kid. And now you're like kicking ass. You know what I mean? And now it's
so cool.
He is legit the coolest. Me and Brody King, we were in LA and it was me, my fiance, him and his wife. And Maddie texted us and was like, hey, if you guys want, I'm doing this like book signing downtown where I had to cook for a bunch of people. And like, I can't give you that food, but I'll make sure you eat. So like we show up to this thing and like, he sat us right in the middle of the place. And he's got to like, these people paid like a lot of money to like have him go like, and he's making this, like, he made like a lobster meal for them or something like that, like a lobster boil. And it was like, it had different courses and stuff like that. That dude made sure that the place that we were at just kept bringing us food. And I'm talking like, it was like $1,000 worth of food, like easily $1,000 worth of food, like just kept coming out. And then we were stuffed. And then a tomahawk came out. This tomahawk came out. We ate maybe one of everything that was on that menu. And he came over and just hung with us. Like he would go to a table for a second, then come hang out with us, go to a table, come hang out with us. And like, it was incredible. He was wearing like a size large shirt when he should have been wearing like a 2XL or something.
Hey, let it out. Let it out. Let the people see it. He's like, he's a really fast, like, I love when people do, I mean, look at you. I mean, you do multiple things. It's so cool. When, like, you talk about getting outside that box. You have somebody like that who's like this chef that now has this show that he's executive producer of on Hulu called The Bear, that so many people were telling me about. John and I just finished it last night and we're both like, oh my God, that show was great. Loved
I've only
it.
heard good things.
It's really, really, and they're like, it's only 8 episodes. I think they're only 30-minute episodes. It's awesome. The writing and it's great. The casting and it's really great. And I was in Hawaii one time and I was in like some like surf shop and I was like, wait, is this Matty Matheson Dickies? What? What? I think it was with Dickies. I was like, and I was like, is it the same guy? Like, that chef has like this clothing line. What is going on? Like, I love when people can break out of that mold. It's like, like you said, everyone always wants to put you in a box and you're living in a box, and to be like, no, I'm not just this one thing. I have all these other interests and these other things that I can do. And to see those things be like successful for other people, like, legit pumps me up.
Yeah. He's
so cool.
For me, the one thing, like, I'm super proud of his success, like extremely proud of his success. Like, the one thing that I'm most proud about is that he is literally putting himself there. Like, that is 100% him. There's no hiding it. He doesn't have a gimmick. He doesn't have, that's always been him. That's him, like, to a T. And it's one, I'm jealous of it. You know what I mean? Where you like, you can be that free and just, be yourself. And like, it's so cool to like see him like thrive at being him.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
the food is just a vessel for himself. You know what I mean?
Matty's
so like,
patties. I was just saying that to John, because I was explaining to John who he was last night. And I was like, yeah, he's got all these different restaurants and stuff. But yeah, I always hear Matty's patties in Toronto is awesome too.
Yeah.
All these things to check out.
Me and Hannah like haven't been, I mean, when we first started dating, we'd go to Toronto like all the time. She would come to Buffalo and then we would go to Toronto. And like, when she first moved to Buffalo, we would go to Toronto. Like, we were in Toronto like almost every weekend. And like right now, this is like the first time for me personally, this is the first time I haven't been to Toronto in like probably 40 years.
Oh my
I've been going to Toronto. Yeah. And I haven't been there in 3 years.
It's been I have been going a little bit more. I was there back in March, and I definitely, when you guys have the show in Buffalo in September, I think I'll definitely come out for that and try to make another trip, because I just love it. It is the best. What other things are you working on? What else is going on in your life? We just talked about Matty Matheson for like 10 minutes. I want to talk about you.
I for real, I do a lot of things outside. I love foraging.
What do you forage for?
Mushrooms mostly.
How do you know which ones are not going to kill you?
Once you kind of get the lay of the land, you kind of understand. And like, there's copycats of all the really good ones. Okay. So like, you have to basically like look under it, and there's like things you need to look for. If a mushroom has like almost kind of like a sponge under it, it's usually okay. But if it has fins, that means it's pretty bad.
Oh,
like, it doesn't mean it will kill you. It just means to stay away from it. Like,
what
if they have
portobellos, portobellos are like fins, aren't they?
Yeah, there's something about that though, because they're like part of the turkey tail family. So it's a little different. Like, the ones that like we get around here, we have like chanterelles, we have bullets, we have morels, but morels were a bitch this year. No one really got morels because the weather was real weird this year.
Bad morel season.
Sons of bitches.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
But those are like the Sasquatch of like mushrooms. Like, they only show up, they literally only show up for like 3 weeks. And like, if you miss that window, you're done.
Oh my
gosh. And I think that it popped, like, I think Buffalo, like this area, Western New York, popped for morels when we were in Vegas, LA, like on the West Coast thing.
Of course.
Me and Hannah missed the entire like season.
Have you ever gone truffle hunting?
Never truffle hunting. I wish. That's like,
me too.
I try. I finished. I watched that movie Pig with Nicolas Cage. And I have like a 40-pound dog named Terry, and it looked exactly like that pig. And it like killed me. I started crying like 5 seconds into the movie, and then like, it was rough. But I kind of wish I had a pig to like do truffle hunting. I don't know if they're around here though.
I don't know where you go to. It seems like a very like European thing to do. I don't know where you go to do it either. I have no idea. It seems like what a fancy thing to do to spend your time. You go truffle hunting with a pig. What?
It's
Sign me
incredible
up
though.
for that.
Yeah.
What is your go-to meal that you cook with these culinary skills that you have?
I mean, let's use skills very, very, very lightly. For me, I love. I mean, I obviously love meat. I'm a butcher, I guess. So yeah, for me, it's that, and I love Asian food. So like
Mm.
Asian food, like when we eat, I mean, we're both kind of like super health conscious too. She's a professional bodybuilder, so
Oh, good for her. Also,
yeah,
you're like super jacked.
I'm getting there, and
Look at you go.
that was a big thing too, is like realizing like, oh my god, I live with a professional athlete. Like
Tell me about it.
I'm gonna start eating what she eats, and I just eat a little more, and like
Yeah.
it's crazy. She's been like my biggest, like that's, yeah, like my whole change was literally because of her.
You look great. I was
Yeah,
actually, as soon
thank
as
you.
I jumped on the Zoom, I was like, look at you in this t-shirt,
Yeah,
busting through this shirt.
I just came back from the gym, so yeah.
I got that pump on.
Oh yeah.
I heard a rumor that you eat like a naked chicken wing and you're from Buffalo. Is this sacrilegious, or do we like what's
So
going on here?
I was literally just, no one goes hard for naked chicken wings. And I was like, well, they're good. They're delicious. Why does everybody shit on it? Like, you know, and again, like for me, when I go into a burger place, if the first thing isn't just their normal burger, I'm like, what are you doing, man? Why do we need to have like a million things on this burger? What does that say about your burger?
Okay. Okay.
So
I can respect that.
if just a normal wing is just delicious with just salt on it, or maybe salt and pepper,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's nice. But
Are you an Anchor Bar kind of guy or no?
Okay. If you ask someone from
Uh-oh.
Philly, if you ask someone about Philly cheesesteaks from Philly, I feel like every person would have a different answer, right?
Right.
Like if you ask five, there might be five different answers. Buffalo wings are exactly the same way. So like in Buffalo, like if one of my friends like are in from out of town, like say like someone from overseas came over here, I would be like, yeah, let's go to the Anchor Bar. So you get like that experience.
Get the experience. Yeah.
But like there is way better experience in Buffalo. Like there's this place called Kelly's Corner, which is like fantastic. You would never in a million years walk in there.
For Jim Kelly?
It might be for Jim Kelly. I don't know, but it could be. And which is also like a Buffalo legend. So
yeah.
Kelly's Heroes. I used to have the poster on my wall when I was a kid. But yeah, there's a place called Kelly's Corner. It probably seats 35 people, 40 people, not including the bar, maybe 50 people. The lady that works there will berate you with yeah, but then you'll get literally the best chicken wings you've ever had.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
there's like little secret
wing.
place.
John always shits on chicken wings because I like having them sometimes, but I don't know, he's not a chicken wing guy. We don't need to talk about his food problems. He's got a laundry list of things that he doesn't like.
That's really
strange. We don't need to get into it. It's super strange. But no, I love a chicken wing. And in Toronto, you get the honey garlic wings, which is not a thing in the United States. And it makes me very sad because honey garlic rules.
We get them here. We get them in Buffalo, but yeah,
you do?
They're delicious. Yeah.
So
my buddy opened a pizzeria, and he was like the first person in Buffalo to do like honey mustard wings.
Oh.
And it was like really delicious. And he kind of changed everything.
Pickle the other day, and it was great.
Whoa, that sounds great.
I know.
I love pickles.
Me too. Big.
Yeah.
So last night I saw this on I don't know if it was TikTok or some shit that I just shouldn't be looking at. But it was a ranch pickle pizza. So I made this last night, and unfortunately it was delicious.
Yeah.
Bad news, but it was good.
Yeah. We do it. So like, here's one thing, and I don't know if this is how you and John are, but I kind of grew up in LA. Like she grew up eating sushi when she was like 3 years old. So like for me, I didn't touch fish until I was probably like 23 years old. So like last night she made cod, and I'm so weird about fish that cod can be a tricky one. A different plate. I can't do with my other stuff. I've like learned my lesson with that. I don't do shells. Shells are weird to me. Really? I don't do skin. Yeah, it's real strange. How
do you do a chicken wing?
Well, it's different. I grew up on them. So chicken wings, like I'm talking about highbrow to lowbrow. Buffalo's a little lowbrow. Like we put a lot of respect on something that's just fried, like a chicken wing that's fried. Like for her, like she grew up eating like Thai food. I don't think I had Thai food until I was like in my 20s, like late 20s, like stuff like that. And like was super into culinary, like love it. But it just not, I wanted like the most flavor you possibly could think of with butter, cream.
Oh God, give me all that.
Which is delicious. And now it's so
amazing.
funny. Like since I've kind of been on this like new kind of like healthy eating like journey, that stuff grosses me out. Like now that I like think about like cream and butter and stuff like that, like I like it for like the first couple of bites, and then I'm like, dude, what do you do? Like I just get sad. And I was telling her the other day, like sad eating is like, damn it, man.
It's
Like
bad.
I shouldn't be eating this. Yeah.
See that, but I will say I'm good at having a bite or two and then leaving it. I don't need to like be indulgent and have like the entire carbonara. I can just have like a little bit of it, but I still like don't take away my butters and my creams.
Keep I always say like that, like when we decide we're gonna like we do some stuff, I'm like, hey, we're grown-ups. We can like just throw this out. We can take like 2 or 3 bites and throw it out, or give it to someone, or like we don't have to like eat all of this.
You don't have to clean your plate. You do not have to clean it all off. How did you and Hannah meet?
So she works for like a CBD company, and she would always post about CBD stuff. So one day I just literally DM'd her about like CBD products, and she was like giving me all this information, stuff like that. And like she's like way more of a go-getter than I am. So like she was doing some working out in New York, and she was like, hey, I'm working in New York. I got about 8 hours free. Do you want to come like hang out with me for 8 hours? And I was like, yeah. And I just got in my car, I drove, and that was it. And like we went and ate sushi. Like I saw her and met her for the first time, like when I opened the door at the Airbnb that we were staying at. And like that was the first time we were like standing face to face. And I remember being like, like that's it. Like this is the person I'm going to be with the rest of my life. And like it, later that night we were walking around and we were eating, and like I don't know. It was just, it was, I knew I was going to be with her the rest of my life the first time I saw her.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And like bold move to just have like the one Airbnb. I mean, I'm sure it worked out, and obviously did work out for you.
Yeah.
But I remember when John and I first started dating, and I was like, oh, we should like meet on like neutral territory when we're like, we're gonna like hang out. Cause I remember him, he was like, called me. He's like, I'm going to come to, I was living in New York at the time. He was like, I'm going to come there and like stay with you or visit you or whatever. And I was like, okay, great. And like the next day being like, you cannot come stay at my apartment. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to look at you for like a whole weekend. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's intense, but here we are. Right.
Yeah. And it,
when
like,
you know,
it's the best. And that like is something that like I never experienced. Like it never even came close to experiencing, you know what I mean? Where it was just like, I'm such a singular person that like, and there's troubles every day with that, with like communicating and stuff like that, when it's like it's not a challenge though. It's literally like, oh man, like this is cool, I'm working through this shit, and like you're gaining more of the puzzle pieces, you know what I mean? And
that's
like
the best.
it really is the best. And man, I just love her to death.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that. My last question before I let you go. Okay. Why is your social media handle Andy Complains? Because you're a very pleasant man.
I think that's because of that. And I was like, okay, well, I used to complain about like dumb things. And then once I kind of got a Twitter, and like when that was the first thing I started, when it was Andy Complains, and like it would be the dumbest things. I would just complain about stupid stuff. And then I realized, I was like, oh man, complaining sucks.
What a drag.
But if I do it there, I won't do it in real life. That's kind of how, that was the idea of it. Yeah. But like, and now then it just turned, and then now I really don't complain.
Yeah, well, good. Yeah. There we have it.
Yeah. And Andy Complains. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that I got to get you on here and hang out. You're a fascinating man that has lived a very cool life. And I'm just excited to watch what you're doing in AEW and see what else the future holds for you.
Yeah, I got a lot of cool things. I'm in my brain right now. So yeah, that's we're gonna get them out, and I'm working on that. Like I said, like the last couple of months have been pretty tough.
Yeah,
and I'm starting to dig out of that hole, and I'm gonna start showing people what I'm doing. So
good. Hell yeah, get it out there, Andy Complains. Not
Yeah, no
complaining,
complaining.
sharing your art, sharing your what's inside your brain.
Yeah. Yes, we need to get it out there. I have too much. I have like guitars and stuff like that. People need to hear them. So
Yes,
I'm gonna do
please
stuff.
do. No, I'm excited to
Yeah.
see what you've been working on and hear what you've been putting together.
Yeah.
Yeah, really excited for you. What a cool chapter for you to be able
Yeah.
to just make some shit happen.
Yeah. And I'm gonna do a podcast. You have to be on it. I'm gonna do a music podcast just about
please.
music.
I would love to. I would love to.
We're not allowed to talk about wrestling. We're not talking
Great.
about. We just talk about music.
Done.
And that's
done
it.
and done.
So once I get it out, please.
Yeah, no,
cool.
I would definitely love to.
Yeah.
I love having like a God, I feel like I need to like delve back into some other music stuff. I've been very like boring. Like aside from like listening to the new Harry Styles album, I've not been listening to anything new in a long time. So we can definitely get deep on some albums.
Yeah, I would love to. It's
Sweet.
yeah, I would love to.
Well, I'm sure I'll see you out on the road soon enough.
Yes, you will. I'm apparently I'm there every week. So
I've been there a lot lately too. I know I need to stay home for a minute.